Hello and welcome to Jamie TV. Thank you very much for tuning in. Welcome to another Cubasis 3 workshop. Yes, I did start with an AUM project, and you may very well be wondering if you're in the right place, but there's a reason for that. I'm going to use that in a moment to show you something Cubasis 3 related. So let's just say hello to people who've already arrived in the chat. Hi Chuck, thanks for being here. Hello Semtex, thanks for joining me once again. Semtex was in my Patreon only live stream earlier on and had a couple of questions which I'm going to try to answer this evening. Hi Cool Gamer and Nonya, thanks for joining me. According to my streaming software, there's more people watching, so don't be shy, just say hello in the chat. Now, before I get started, if you have any questions whatsoever about Cubasis 3, you are very welcome to throw them in the chat. If I can answer them as I go, I will do, although I have a lot to get through, and I'm going to see Doctor Who at the cinema later, so I'm a bit excited, and I'm not gonna do more than an hour this evening because I've got somewhere to be, and I'm a bit giddy about it. So yes, you can throw your questions in the chat. You can check out the information below the video where you've got all my contact information. You can email me, you can message me on pretty much any any of the socials, whatever. Just get in touch and I will answer your questions. Right, so the first question that I'm going to answer today was somebody in one of the Facebook Cubasis 3 groups asked about moving files around. Is there any way to bulk move files into Cubasis 3? They couldn't see any easy, quick way to do that. They wanted to know how they could move AUM stems into Cubasis 3 and do that efficiently. I'm going to show you a few ways that you can do that, because I know that a lot of the iOS musicians do use AUM, and what I've noticed recently is that quite a few of the people who like to come up with jams in AUM are getting more interested in using a more traditional DAW, because it's easier to complete sort of a full piece of music in a traditional DAW rather than in AUM where it's very easy to put together a really awesome sounding loop, but then it's kind of tricky to sort of make it into a finished piece. It is possible, but it's not really that easy. I've done a lot of experimenting with that myself, and I've decided that AUM is for jams and ideas, from my point of view anyway, and then complete things in Cubasis 3 or Logic Pro for iPad. Right, so I'm going to go to a different view. I'm going to go to this one, and we will just scoot across here. What I did was I earlier in my Patreon stream, because once a week on a Friday lunchtime UK time, I do a Patreon only stream, and what I've been doing recently is every week I just log on and I just make some music, and I've been gradually working on this chill wave track. It's the first time I've ever had to go at a piece of music like this, and so my patrons have been witnessing me kind of learn on the fly how to do this, and I've just gradually put this piece together. And so what I did was I reached a point where I decided, in order to finish this piece, I wanted to move it into Cubasis 3. All I want to do next is I want to add a little bit of ear candy, some risers, some effects, and mix it. And I just find that is much easier to do in a traditional DAW. So earlier on in the Patreon stream, what I did was I armed each individual track like this, and then I just went and pressed record, let the track play through, and then what that does, I mean, if you're not familiar with AUM, I know not everybody uses it. If you go up to the burger icon up here and go to Files, and then go to Recordings, and what it will do is it will set up a folder for the track that you're working on. This one's called Chill Waver. It was called Chill Wave, and then I made a second copy of it in case I messed up and wanted to go back to the original version. So I called it Chill Waver. It's definitely going to need a better title than that. So if you come up with any cool names, just throw them in the chat. Right, so here we are. In that folder, here are all the individual stems. So that's each instrument rendered as an audio file. Now what I can do here is I can click on one of those files, and then if I go to the little arrow in a box icon, it gives me all kinds of options of where I want to send it to. And this, you know, it's real easy to just email it to someone, or send it to Messenger in someone, upload it somewhere, airdrop it somewhere, whatever. But if I go across these icons here, which I can't do with my mouse, I found out earlier, scoot to the end, go to More, and come down, we will find Cubasis 3. So if I click on that and send that file to Cubasis 3, then when I open up Cubasis 3, that singular file will be in my audio files. So if you've just got one thing to send over there, that's cool. But, you know, I don't want to do that with each individual stem. There's, you know, that's just going to take ages, and, you know, there's more interesting things to do with life, like eat cake and stuff. Semtech says, have I done an AUM tutorial I can use, but not the deeper stuff? I have done some stuff on AUM, yes. Not sort of thorough and complete demos like I have done for Cubasis 3, but I have done some. I did a couple of noob ones a couple of years ago, some sort of AUM starter ones. They might be worth checking out. They were live streams. And I've also made a few videos about connecting AUM to Cubasis 3 and recording the audio directly from AUM into Cubasis 3, or rendering your audio files and how to get them into Cubasis 3, stuff like that. And they are mostly little quickie videos, so well worth checking out. Right, now, where was I? Right, yes, so I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to send each file individually. So if I come out of this project now, let's just get rid of that. I have to do that with my finger. Now I want to go to my files here, and where we find the audio files that have been rendered in AUM, we go to Audio Share and AUM Recordings, and then we'll find that folder for Chill Waver, and there are all the files. Now if I just go up here and make that a slide over folder, then we'll open up Cubasis 3, and we want a new project, which we will call Chill Waver, I guess. That's in my way. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. Right, create. Okay, now I don't need these tracks here. I'm just going to delete them off. Now what I can do here is I can just grab one of these files and I can just drag and drop it into the project. It's a piece of audio, so it's going to set up a track for me. Apparently I recorded that at not at 48 kilohertz. So yes, I will convert to 48 because that's what my project's default setting is. And if I just play that, right, you can hear that keyboard from that track. But there's, well, I suppose I could leave that there. I can still show you this other thing that that I want to show you. In fact, no, I'm going to get rid of it. I want to get rid of that. You'll see why in a moment. But if I go to my media now and go to audio and my audio files, we'll see that that is in there. If you just look here, it's labeled 2 King of Digital. For some reason, it's only showing up as 2 in Cubasis 3. I'm not sure why it's not showing the full file name, but anyway, that's what it is. So I'm just going to get rid of this, and let's just get that side camera on there as well. Okay, so I don't need that there because of the thing that I'm about to show you. So I'm going to delete that from there. But that is another way that you can get a file into Cubasis 3, drag and drop. Works very well. Now, I'm going to come out of Cubasis 3, just close that for a moment, go to my files, and here's the Chillwaver folder that is in the AUM recordings. I'm just going to kind of knock back page out of there. Why can't I do that? That sucks a bit. Let's just go back to it this way then. Right, okay, so there are my files that I want to be in my Cubasis 3 audio folder. So I back page out of there, press and hold on the Chillwaver folder and copy it. And then if I go to on my iPad and we find Cubasis 3, here we go. Then I'll go into audio and I'm just going to go into my audio files, and then I want to paste that folder just there. Right now, if I click on it, there's all my audio that I want to be in my Cubasis 3 audio files. Now we'll come out of there and we'll go back to Cubasis 3. Open up recent and go to audio, my audio files, Chillwaver. You see the folders there now, and there are all the audio files. Now for some reason, and I don't know why, but these are they've just got a number name. I'm not sure why that is. Surely that should have the full extension on there. Anyway, that bizarreness aside, what I'll do is I'll just drag that up there, and as you can see, it just drops the audio into my project, creates an audio track for it. Now this will be easier to do if I just minimize the size of these tracks here. And we'll just drag all of these in. Hang on a minute, have I done that one twice? What a stupid hippie. Wait a minute, I've got 11, 12, 13, 14, 18. Yeah, I've done that one twice. Let's get rid of that one. Right, and then 19 and number 2. Down here a bit. And yes, it would be nice if there was a way of dropping all of these in at the same time. But as of yet, there isn't. That is something that is a popular feature request. Almost there. Okay, is that the last one? That's the last one. Okay, so now all of that audio is dragged into my project. That project was 90 beats a minute, so I'm just going to change that to suit before I forget. And let's just play that. Hey Matthias. The nipper's finally asleep, I see. We know that feeling. It would be nice if you could just drop the folder in, yes. Like I say, that is a feature request that has been made a number of times. And I have to stress, and I've said this before in other streams, but I have to stress that if you are a Cubasis 3 user and there are features that you would like to see in the app, you can tell me and I'll pass it on. You know, you can put it in the Cubasis 3 Facebook groups. And, you know, I quite regularly sort of collate requests there and pass them on. But the best thing that you can do is go to Steinberg's forum, go into the Cubasis area of the forum, and there's a place there where you can make your feature requests, and that is where Steinberg are going to take the most notice of you. That is the thing to do. It was a battle, was it? Yep, it can be. All right, so the reason I realised that might have been a little bit laborious watching that, but the reason I wanted to actually pull all of those audio files into this project and just play it for you was just so that you could hear that it does indeed sound exactly the same as it did in AUM. And so from here, I can start to add more tracks, add my little bits of ear candy and risers and stuff like that, use a bit of automation, you know, use some insert effects and some sound effects, and generally just mix my project and get it ready for mixing down. So I'm not going to continue any further than that with this project, because this project is for my Patreon live streams. So I will be continuing with the progression of this track in my Patreon streams. So what I'm going to do now is go to my media and to projects, and then we're going to go and find Cubasis 3 Workshop, and we'll go back to the track that I've been working on during these live streams that I've been using to demonstrate stuff. Okay, I'll just have a look at my list, see what's up next. Oh, actually, there's something else I ought to just very quickly mention. Something else that you can do to get audio files into Cubasis 3, and this works for MIDI files too. You'll see there's a folder here for imported MIDI. I can actually, from Cubasis 3, go to import here and go into files, and then I can use the filing system to, you know, go through my folders, find the audio file that I want, and then drag that into my audio files. Then it will appear in here, in there, look, and you just grab it and drop it into your project and proceed as you wish. Okay, so yes, I'm glad I remembered that. That would have been a little bit of a faux pas. Thank you very much, Matthias. It's you know, Patreon is a weird thing. When I first started it, I really didn't know what to do with it. I thought I did, then I got it, then I didn't really know what to do with it. But now it's running quite nicely. If I get codes for apps, I give them away there. I don't give them away now anywhere else except for Patreon, because they're the people who support me and help me to continue to do this, you know, because, you know, YouTube ad revenue is not a lot, so it just helps a bit, and so I get to give something back to them by giving away any free codes I get for software on my Patreon account. Right, so what was the next thing on my list? Instrument selection. All right, now I'm going to add a track down here just to use to demonstrate this. So I'm going to go create a MIDI track, and then let's just make this all big, madam, and to select the instrument that you want on your MIDI track, you can press on this icon here, or you can just press there. Okay. Now what will happen is you will then be dropped into this menu. Now, depending what you opened last, depending what instrument you've already had on the track, if you've already had an instrument on the track, that is, depends whereabouts in the menu you will land. And this is confusing one of my followers. So he's asked me to demonstrate this. So I just want to cover this nice and quickly. The thing to do to understand how you navigate this is to wherever it lands you in this menu, what you want to do is just backspace like this until you get to this menu here, right? So this is where you can say, no, I don't want an instrument at all. You know, maybe you're using the track just to send sidechain information or something, right? Then you've got, why have I got a pop-up on my... I'm sure... Sorry about that. I'm sure I stopped that from happening. Anyway, I'll look at that later. So here is where we would go into any audio units that we've bought. So this would be third-party plugins if you're new to iOS. Sorry, Android users. I know you can't use those. Now, older apps you would find under Interapp Audio perhaps. So the protocol for connecting your digital audio workstation to an external app used to be Interapp Audio. So what we have now is we have some older apps that are just Interapp Audio. We have some that are just AUV3, the newer apps, and we have quite a lot that actually do both. I would advise, wherever possible, use an AUV3, because that means that your third-party plugin is actually hosted within the DAW. If it's Interapp Audio, then the app is open outside, in this case, outside of Cubasis 3. They are connected. You can receive audio in, you can send MIDI out to that app, but essentially they are separate, and so the plugin is not actually hosted, and it's a bit of a fragile connection. And as time goes on, it will only become more and more fragile because it's the old protocol. And if you are a Logic Pro for iPad user, you will know that Apple didn't even bother to include Interapp Audio in Logic Pro for iPad. So I think that's a good indicator of where that protocol is headed. Let's backspace out of Interapp Audio. Now you'll see I've got all of the in-app purchases for Cubasis 3. So there's quite a lot of things down here. There's the Halion Sonic Selection. I go into there and then I've got a bunch more folders because they're nice and conveniently separated out into types of instrument. So, you know, let's say if I want a string sound, there I go. And I can select my string sound. And I can audition it, try it, decide I don't like it, try another, etc., etc. Backspace out of there. And the same thing applies for Neo FM. Lo-fi piano is a singular instrument. When you click on it, you just select the initial preset, and then you can go here and select one of the other presets. Microsonic is the more basic sounds. Some of them are quite nice, some of them are quite sort of naff and cheesy, if we're honest. They remind me of like the early 90s sound cards that would come with your computer. You know, if anybody is old enough to remember that, when we used to use a digital audio workstation and send MIDI to the computer's internal sound card. If you think about the soundtracks for games from that era, those kinds of sounds, that's what they remind me of. And then we've got the classic machines. That's an in-app purchase. That's the drum machines. And it's not a particularly expensive in-app purchase, and I think they sound great. I'm using one in this track. And in a bit, if I've got time, I'm going to show you how you can make one of these internal instruments. Well, not internal instruments, but it's a Cubasis only instrument. That's the point, actually. If you buy anything from the Cubasis shop, it does only work in Cubasis. You will not be able to open that as an AV3 in any of your other doors. Some people are not very happy about that, but you know, they're not that expensive, to be honest, for the quality of them. They're well worth buying. Then there's the mini sampler. Now this is the source of much fuss, shall we say. Basically, the second most popular request, I believe it is, for additions to Cubasis 3 is a better sampler. I'm not going to touch on that right now. And then down at the bottom we've got Microlog, which, as I've harped on about in a number of these streams already, is an excellent synthesizer. So that's how you navigate that. It's always just a case of if you selected an instrument and you're not happy with it, you want to change it. If you've not got the side menu open, you go to this icon here, open your list, and then select something else from the list, or backspace and navigate to a different instrument. Backspace is the key, right? And you can actually just do that. Just drop that down to the bottom of the page. I actually never ever do that. I don't personally see any use for it, but you know, it's there. So I'm just showing you. All right, now, the global strip. I had some questions about this week. Let's just go to the mixer and I'll show you what we're talking about. This strip just here. I've had people asking me, what is the global strip for? Well, let's just press play. And now if I, let's say, mute a few instruments off, okay. Now, if I press this mute button over here, it removes them all. If nothing is muted and I press the mute button, it mutes everything because it's a global strip. Right? Take that off. Now I'm going to solo a few tracks, and then I'll press the global solo button, and it just removes them. Now these would be for writing, for reading and writing automation to all the tracks. So let's say if I wanted to write some automation, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that in a moment, but see if I can explain this well. Here we go. Okay, let's say if I wanted to play my track and adjust the faders slightly as it played and record that information, write that information as automation, so that every time the track plays back, those alterations that I made with the faders would happen again, the same. I hope that makes sense. What I would do is I would put read and write on. Now, you have to be very careful with the write button, because once you press play, any changes that you make will be written. So if you accidentally leave it on and you've written the information that you wanted to write, if you leave it on and forget about it, you're still writing everything that you do. So be careful. Now, any automation that you have written, if you want that automation to be working and happening, right, you need to have read automation engaged. If it's not engaged, then it won't read it. So, For example, oh, I'll just show you this actually. So last stream, I was showing you, let's go to automation here. I was showing you how to write your automation. And I was pissy-pantsing around with this bass track, and I was playing with the cutoff and the envelope and resonance here in this synth, in Microlog, playing with these three controls. So what I did was, after the stream, because I'd been piss-pantsing around with it and I'd recorded so much of it and I kind of liked it, but it was also incomplete and a bit of a mess, I went and made it all for the whole track. There you go. So there's my resonance, which I did by hand. I recorded that by hand. The cutoff and envelope I did by hand at first, and then I went in and perfected it. So if I play this and solo this bass, I'll go to the mixer. Right, okay, so we're not hearing any automation because read's not on. Right, so if I press read and global, now they're all on, now they're all off. Right, now, it came to my attention this week that not everybody knows that you can actually automate the faders, as I was talking about a few minutes ago. So I'm just going to show you that real quickly. Let's say in this middle section of my track, because every track needs to have a section that we call the middle bit. I'll just solo this here. That is correct, Semtex. There is always undo to save your ass. This is, in fact, a fact, thankfully. One of the best things ever invented, I have to say. Okay, so let's imagine that I wanted this sound to fade in gradually. I don't, but we're just using it as an example. So what I would do there's a couple of ways you can do it actually, but the other ways I've kind of given you a good idea of already. Here's another way you can do it. Let's go to the mixer and we will put write and record on. And actually I just need to make sure this is going to start from the right place. Yes, we'll pull that fader down. Okay, now, dare I do this with my mouse? If I'm honest, no, I daren't. Well, hang on. Go on, I'll give it a go. Right, so what I do is I press play. Now, once I press play, any movement I make will be written. I didn't make any movement because I just realized something. I can't actually tell where I am in the track whilst that's soloed. Stupid hippie. Let's just have a quick look actually. Volume. Yes. If I press undo. Actually, I'm just going to select all. I'll clear that. Right, we'll go back to the mixer. And yeah, that's all the way down at the bottom. That's right. Okay, let's give this another go. We've got right on. We press play. Gradually bring up the volume. Okay, I can stop it there. Now the first thing I need to do is remember to switch off right. Come out of there. And now we go to the volume automation here, and you can see there is my fade. Right, now let's just watch that happen in the mixer because it's just really cool. Okay, that makes me smile. I just think that's really, really awesome, watching that automation there. Now, I'm going to go back to that automation because what you'll see is I've got kind of a wobbly line. I mean, it would be a wobbly line if I did it with my finger, but obviously it's a much more wobbly line because I did it with my mouse. And God, I hate Bluetooth mice. Now what I'm going to do is I have selected, good sentence. I'm going to stick my finger over here. I'm going to select all of these volume nodes here, and then I'll go to erase, get rid of all of them, and now you'll see I've got a straight line of automation. And I would just like, actually, this first node to be right on the bar. Now, if I just go up here and select snap to bar, then once I move this, which can be a little problematic when it's right down at 0. There, look, it snapped it onto the bar there. If I just click off of it, I'll just move the transport bar. There, look, you can see it down there. Okay, right, but the thing is, I don't actually want it to do that. That was just for the purposes of demonstration. So when we want to clear automation, we just go in and press clear, and it erases all the automation on just that track. Now I'll just check my mixer. I'll need to bring that fader back up, and I can switch read off on that track because there's actually no automation written for it now. I just need the one on my bass. Okay. Right, now, here's another thing. Just going to make this smaller here. Now, I've been asked about things like moving MIDI and audio around in the project and the handles, the fades and the right copy thing and all that. I'm just going to show you that now. Let's just grab a little bit of audio for me to play with. We'll use this MIDI here actually. I'll copy that. I'll just move away from my project and we will paste that just over here. Right, now I'm going to press and hold on this MIDI, and now we have a loop around that MIDI. I'll solo it. Now in the next stream, I'm going to show you a lot about drums, about how to get great drums in Cubasis 3. Hey Yellow Eyes, thank you for joining us. But for now, yes, right. Sorry, I lost the plot for a moment, and I forgot what I was talking about. I want to show you this for audio as well. So what I'll do is I'll just freeze this little bit of drums here. Now what you should see now is that although I pressed freeze on this MIDI track, it only froze just this section, and that's because I've got the loop engaged around here, right? So let's just unfreeze that MIDI now. Right, so now I now have a MIDI part to play with and an audio part to play with. I only want them to be a couple of bars long. So let's just grab this MIDI here and reduce it down to 2 bars. Now, because I've got snap to bar activated, it reduces it 1 bar at a time. If I change that to half a bar, there we go. And if I wanted to move this MIDI part around now, it will move by half a bar. Or if I went and say, made it 16ths and zoom in a little bit, it will move by a 16th note length at a time. There we go. Right, now I want to reduce the length of this audio as well. So when you want to alter the size of a MIDI or audio part, you grab one of the squares at the bottom right or left hand corner. If I grab the one at the bottom left and drag that to the left, you'll see nothing is happening. I can't make that longer there because there is no audio event before here. But because I've reduced this audio event here from 8 bars to 2 bars, that audio remains there. It's still there, and I can sort of unfold it if I want to, but I don't want to. Now, I'm going to show you something more about audio in a moment, but let's just have just the drums, the MIDI drums soloed. And let's talk about what all these handles do. So, we know that we can make the MIDI part bigger or smaller from either side like this. If I just decide that I want to enter some more MIDI here, and I just need more MIDI part to go into and put it in, I can just do that. But I can't do that with audio. Now, this little square at the top, if I drag this down, it reduces the volume. Oh, let me just make that loop go around just these 2 bars. Press and hold, there we go. Right, so now what that's doing is that's setting a different volume level for just this MIDI part. And if I go and show you, if I open the desk, you see that's making no difference at all on the mixing desk. This also works for your audio. And what we can also do is grab this little square at the top left hand side and create a fade in. And similarly a fade out. Now what I would do with a piece of audio like this, if I've rendered some MIDI to audio, what I would do is zoom right in, grab the very first little bit here and put a tiny fade there, what I call a micro fade. Then go to the end and do the same thing. And what these microfades are there for is they're so tiny that they will be completely unnoticeable. You'll not notice that fade at all. But what it will do is sometimes when you have a piece of audio that's been rendered like this, it's possible for a little bit of an audio glitch. If I just play this bit, I don't think we have one here actually. But you hear there that finishes off very, very clean. Sometimes when you do this, you end up with little artifacts of audio, little annoying clicks or little noises. And so every time the audio loops round, you'll get that noise. And if you just use a little fade, sometimes it needs to be a little bit longer than the one that I inserted there. But when you think about it, what's the measure in time of that little tiny microfade there? But that can be just enough just to get rid of those little noises so that things loop around sweetly. We can reduce the volume of this one too. Oh, forgot about my loop. Now, here's a really, really magic thing. A recent addition to Cubasis 3 is this feature. This handle on the right hand side here. If I just drag this out, it will duplicate this piece of MIDI to here. It's kind of like a quick way of doing copy and paste. So normally what I would have to do is I would have to select that piece of MIDI, go up to copy, then put my playhead where I want it to copy to, then paste it in there. It's just a quicker way of doing that, and you can do like multiple really, really quickly. I just want to get rid of that one. This works exactly the same for audio. Now you'll hear with those little microfades, there's no click when it moves on to the next piece of audio. If I remember to take the loop off. Now, if I want to join all these pieces of audio together, or indeed all these pieces of MIDI, if I just select all this MIDI here and just go up to glue, then they'll all join together. And another recent addition to Cubasis 3 was we can now do that with the audio. Yeah. Which is fantastic. Now, the problem that I have with these drums is, just looking at my list of things, yes, the problem that I have with these drums is that they are all on one track. And this is not really the way to deal with drums. When you want to get serious about drums, when you want to mix a track, you want each component part of the drum kit on its own separate track. And I'm going to show you how I would go about doing that. Now, actually, I've got a bit of, let's just get rid of that MIDI part up there. Just clean up my project a bit. Right. So, I want all my drums to be on separate tracks, and I want them to be rendered to real audio. So here's how I would go about it. Because, these drum machines in Cubasis 3, I'm not saying they're the absolute best drums available on iOS at all, but they do sound really, really good. And with a little bit of a tweak, you can, a few little tricks, you can make them sound really, really awesome. I've used these in tracks and they've ended up sounding really, really good. While on the subject of drums, I love the Alan Morgan Midi. When I tried to bring in Midi from other applications programmed to General Midi or General Midi 2, Cubasis doesn't play it properly. How can I adjust to play? How can you adjust it to play? Right, okay, I've done that myself. And the problem is that General Midi is a standard, and if it is properly, strictly adhered to by everyone, then it should in fact work flawlessly for you. But it just doesn't always match up. And really, if you're having that problem, the only thing you can do is, first of all, you get all your Midi, select it all, and then glue it. And then what you do is go into your Midi. Let's just make this thing smaller. Right, and then you play the keys at the side to find the drum that you want. So let's say your kick is in the wrong place, right? Right. Okay, let's say the kick is on, just as an example, I know it's wrong in line with general MIDI, but just as an example, right? So your kick's on C1 and you wanted it to be on B. And you just go like this, zoom right out, and then select all of the kicks. You can drag them down with your finger, or you go to transpose because this is safer. You're not going to accidentally move it to the wrong place. Press OK, and now all the kicks because there just happens to be another kick sound on that note. That's all you can really do. There's no sort of magic switch. There's no way to just make that happen real quick like. You just have to move it about. And I've spent many an hour doing that. Right, so now while I'm in my MIDI, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to select every drum except for my kicks. And then I'm going to go up here and press mute. Now, if I zoom out a little bit, you can see that now every component part of my kit is grey, not red. So I'm left with just my kicks showing red. They're the only ones that are not muted. Now if I just press play just to prove a point, there's my kicks. I'm going to switch off the reverb. That makes a difference, doesn't it? And now I'm going to go to freeze. And we've made a bit of a fuck up because I've still got a loop over here. I didn't want that. So we'll press undo. There we are, see? Undo saved my life. Get back to over here so I can just see everything. Now, hold and select. And now I've got a loop around the bit that I wanted to freeze. Right? Now I press freeze. And now it's going to render just the kicks to real audio. But if you think about a drum kit, right? Each component part of the drum kit is a mono instrument, not stereo. But Cubasis 3 will render me a stereo file because the original instrument, if I just unfreeze this, because this drum machine instrument has a stereo output. And so I just click on the audio, go down here, press stereo. Do I want to convert it to mono? Okay, yes I do. And now it's a mono file. And now everything is okay with the world. Now I go here, double click, go into here, and I'm going to label this kick because I do like to label things. I'm obsessed with getting everything in my project the right colors and labeled correctly. Then I go up here, I'm going to label it kick right here as well. Okay, now I go back into this MIDI, which I've already unfrozen, and I will select all of the kicks, mute them, then select all the snares, if my mouse will let me, and unmute those, click off, zoom in a bit, right? So now you can see we've got colour back in the snares and everything else is muted. So now I go and freeze. Is the output the same for both channels, dude? No stereo effect. Well, yes it is. It is the same, but not quite. So like the kick in the drum machine is centre panned, so it's identical both sides. And I believe the snare, let's just zoom in on that snare. I think the snare is centre panned as well. Yeah. Yeah, you can see that's exactly the same both sides. But some of the other component parts of the kit, like the toms for instance, are already panned. And so, in fact, I should do one. I should do one while we're talking about it. I'm running out of time, but I want to do this because this is important. I'll label that later. And then go into here, mute off my snares. Now then, which is a tom? That's a clap. I think this is a tom. That's a tom. But let's use this. Let's use the high tom. Right, so I'll select all of those high toms and unmute them. This should perfectly illustrate the point. All right, now I freeze that one. Right, so, and when it does this, it freezes the track. If you leave it frozen, that instrument that you have open on that track is no longer doing anything. It's not affecting the CPU or the DSP in your track. So let's say when I've rendered all of my audio, if I want to just leave this MIDI in the project and leave that drum machine in there as an instrument, it's not affecting anything, it's not doing anything, it's not taking up any processing power whatsoever. So I can just leave it down at the bottom of my track, just in case I decide I wish I'd done something a little differently and I want to open it again and refreeze something, re-render something when I've made some changes. Right, now let's just zoom in and have a look at this tom, and you'll see what I mean. Right there, this high tom, there's more weight to the file on this side than this side. Now if I play it, if you have cans on or if you're using decent speakers, you will hear that it's heavier on one side than the other. Now I'm just going to unfreeze this and just show you in this drum machine. Right, you can't pan anything in here. You've got no control over panning whatsoever. So that panning is preset for you, and I don't like that. I want control over the panning myself. I want to say where that drum is panned to. So if I now just select this tom, and actually I'll leave it zoomed in. I'll leave it zoomed in so we can see that there's more weight on this side of the stereo picture than this side. Now I'll go in here, click on stereo, change it to mono. Now what's happened is all of that audio information has been consolidated into one, and it's just a mono file, and it's right down the center. Now I can accurately pan it to where I want it to be in the stereo picture. If I had left it as that unbalanced stereo file, then when I panned it, it would never really be where I want it to be, because if you imagine, right, oh, apologies for that. Imagine, right, this is the center of my stereo picture, right, and that's hard left and hard right. Now what we've got is we've got some audio information that's panned like off center, but not all the way one way or the other. So as I try to pan this to one side, we've still got audio information here. If I want to pan it all the way hard left, this is still here. And I don't like that. We don't want that. It's a mess. So we make it into a mono file, and then we can place it exactly where we want it to be in the stereo picture. Because what we do with drums, with each of those individual component parts of the kit, we build a stereo picture by panning, say, kick, snare, hats down the middle, and then maybe putting ride out, hard right, and maybe you've got a crash, you put hard left, and maybe you put your toms, maybe you've got 8 toms and you want to do that Roger Taylor thing, like Fat Bottom Girls, panning right round from one ear to the other, and so you place them in the stereo picture like that, right? So this way we can get complete control of those mono files, build that stereo sounding drum kit, and then, we send it out to reverb, and everything in the world sounds absolutely magic. Okay, I've overrun a tiny little bit, and I have to finish because I'm off to the pictures soon to see Doctor Who at the cinema with my middle kit, the Slayler. So I'm going to say thank you very, very much for watching. I've noticed this evening there's a lot of people who are watching who have not joined in the chat. So you people who are sort of hiding, if you have any questions about today's stream or any questions at all about Cubasis 3, don't be shy. Check out the information down below the video, and you can get in touch with me and ask your questions so that I can address them in future streams. Now, once again, I have completely forgotten to run an advert in the middle of this stream, so there goes my ad revenue. I would just like to mention very quickly that if these streams are helpful to you and you would like to help out the channel, then there are lots of ways you can do that. And I don't like to be one of those YouTubers who's constantly saying, super chat me or this, that, and the other. I don't like that. All I want to say is, if you do want to support me, if you do want to help, then the way I would prefer you to do it, to be honest, is by joining my Patreon for as little as like $1 a month. And to be honest, if you do that, it really helps me to give back to you. I can, I'm at your beck and call, and I can give you codes and stuff like that. Or alternatively, if you go to Bandcamp, you can purchase some of my music on Bandcamp. Those are my preferred ways. But yes, a super chat, Semtex, thank you very much for cake. That's awesome. It's also very, very much appreciated. Thank you. Doctor Who is lame in my opinion. Don't beg for subs, lol. That's my little boy. Who has, up to this point, behaved himself. I'm not begging for subs, son. I'm just begging for cake money. Alright? And that's okay. And Doctor Who is not lame. I'm coming in the house in a minute, so prepare to get your butt kicked. Alright, everyone. Thanks ever so much for being here. I really appreciate you joining me. Until my next stream, take care of yourselves. Be kind. Be good people. Look after the planet. He said stalling for more things to say to just try and get the iPad to a point where I can play out with some music, because I forgot to set that up. Make lots of music, and do try not to pissy pants about. See you later.